Well, hello everyone. I hope you're all having a wonderful day. I am so excited to talk to you about basic eyeshadow palettes. You guys know that those are the ones that I like the most, and I tried to narrow it down to my top 10 basic eyeshadow palettes in my collection. Now, considering that that's usually what I buy, I had way more than 10. So in order to narrow it down, I took out all the palettes that are discontinued that, took out quite a few. Then I still had too many, so I narrowed it down even more by taking out any palette that had like non-neutral pops of color. So that, took out Pat McGrath palettes, that took out one of my favorite Lorac palettes, like just a lot of palettes in general. If it had any pops of color, they're gone. Now, everyone has a different idea of what neutral means. To me, it mostly means browns, although sometimes like a pink palette that just is very like neutral type pinks is also in my mind kind of a neutral palette. I did include one of those. But for the most part, this is all brown with forays into pink. I tried to have a different beverage to share today other than a matcha latte, but it was really what I wanted, so I just I'm just gonna have one. This is the brand I get at Walmart, by the way, that I use to make my matcha lattes. It's just a lot more inexpensive than some other brands out there, and this one is it's got some sweetener in it already. Okay, let us begin talking about basic eyeshadow palettes. I love them so much. Let's start with the teeny tiniest one that I wanted to mention. So this is from Kaja. Oh, I forgot to mention, I'm doing this video because I saw other people doing it. I know for sure it's just Steph did this video, and I'm trying to remember who else I saw do it. I'll for sure leave Steph's video down below in case you want other people's opinions on great basic palettes. But I just wanted to say, I'm following this trend. I've been seeing this video go around. So again, talking about this first one from Kaja. So this is the Spiked Ginger bento box from Kaja. Kaja has several options that could fit into this basic type of category. This particular one has a light brown matte, a kind of rose goldy shimmer, and a dark brown matte. And both of the mattes lean pretty warm. This is an extremely easy way to create a beautiful warm-toned eye look. If you've never tried the Kaja shadows, the mattes are very blendy and buildable. Like, it's just exactly the type of eyeshadow formula that I enjoy. And this particular shimmer in this one, here, I'll quick show you. It leans more towards like the normal metallic than a lot of their other shades that a lot of their other shimmers and their other little stacks do. Some of their other ones are way more sparkly. This one does have a little bit of sparkle to it, but it's mostly just kind of a metallic. Okay, it has micro sparkles, just not as much as others do. Very basic, very beautiful. Let's talk about another warm-toned little palette. Oh, I love this so much. This is from Cosmetics. This is the Rodin palette. I think that the matte formula in this palette is actually rather exceptional. It's very blendy. And the texture is just very soft. Sometimes when you have a very soft matte, it can be really in your face, too pigmented. That's not the case with this. They have a really nice pigmentation, but it's more buildable and just so easy to work with. Of course, we've got some beautiful shimmers over here. I'm mostly thinking, however, of these three shades. It creates a very easy and beautiful eye look. These little palettes from Cosmetics are a little spendy. I got mine on sale. If you've got your eye on one of them, just wait for a sale. They do come around several times a year. Another little palette, but this time going in the cool direction. So this is from Kaleidos. This is the Cold Brew Quad. And just take a look at the beauty that is this. that is this. Oh. So this is obviously more cool toned, and it has an incredibly beautiful shimmer over here that is really, really glorious. But if you are trying to be really basic and you don't want anything gorgeously shimmery like that, oh my gosh. Just these three mattes by themselves create a really, really pretty look. Again, this is another formula that is really easy to blend. These are by no means lacking pigment, however. I felt like they were quite pigmented, but not too pigmented. Just really, really beautiful and kind of creamy in texture. Just kind of delightful to use. I also like how this quad has light, medium, deep, and then a shimmer. Like, that to me is how every quad should be. Mini quads, just in my mind, do not go together. The shades in here work together beautifully. Let's talk about this one from Juvia's Place. This is my last palette from Juvia's Place, and I cannot get rid of this. This is the Taupes, and I love it. While the shimmers are pretty, it's not necessarily my favorite formula. The reason why I hang on to it is actually for the mattes. Again, when we're talking about my most favorite basic palettes, the mattes in here are actually kind of low in pigment. Like, you can build them up a little bit, but not too much. You get to a certain point where you can't make them any deeper, and I actually kind of like that about these. It means it's very easy to work with, especially if you're trying to avoid going too dramatic. Sometimes I get too excited, I guess, about doing my makeup and I'm putting it on. I'm like, oh my gosh, I put on more eyeshadow than I meant to. You kind of really can't with these mattes. They reach a certain point and then they're done. So this is very everyday for me, but at the same time, these taupes to me can also be very kind of more glam. So, and I'm just a fan of taupes in general, so I really like this palette. Let's talk about a couple of Colourpop palettes. Let's start with taupe again. So this is That's Taupe, and we have a very basic palette here. It's wonderful. It's great. We have a really pretty Super Shock over here if you're looking for something blingy on the lid. But once again, the mattes can create by themselves just a very beautiful classic eye look. And Colourpop has good quality in these little palettes, and they're very inexpensive. My favorite basic palette is from Colourpop, the Going Coconuts palette. I like this one because it's more neutral. It has like one shade up here that leads kind of cool and one shade over here that leads kind of warm, but the rest of it is just very neutral, and that is what I prefer the most on my eyes. This middle shade called Cocoa Crush, I've swatched it many times on my channel, but I'm going to do it again because I think it is perfect. That kind of neutrally toned shimmer is just perfection. Yeah, I just love that. But again, if you're trying to avoid shimmer, you're sticking with mattes, you're keeping it very basic. This is actually a really good palette for that because you have this nice light matte up here and then a different range of tones to create your basic matte brown look. I think it's great. Let's talk about the palette I'm actually wearing on my eyes today. I went back and forth on whether or not I should include this in a basic eyeshadow palette video, just because it includes some very beautiful shimmers, but this is from Kaleidos. This is the Sashimi City palette, and I think all of these palettes like this from Kaleidos are getting discontinued, but this one is still available. If you like a warm toned 6-pan palette with a couple super great sparkly shimmers in there, you'll enjoy this one. I loved putting my eyeshadow on with this today. It's been a little while since I reached for this, and I love the Kaleidos formula. It's so blendable, it's so blendable, builds very easily upon itself. So the mattes, you know, when mattes are easy to work with, it really gets me in my heart, just because I'm not super confident with blending. So when a formula blends easily, I'm gonna tell you guys, because it was really important to me that mattes blend easily. And the one I'm wearing on my lid today is this shade, and it is a beautiful sparkle. But this is another palette where if you wanted to avoid the sparkle, you could just stick with the mattes and create a very pretty warm look. I absolutely love that Kaleidos came out with a couple of neutral palettes, because for so long, everything from them was very, very colorful. So for someone like me where that's intimidating, I like having some neutrals from them because the formula is great. Okay, let's talk about that pink neutral palette. I mean, yeah. It's definitely pink, but none of these are like bright fuchsias or anything like this. A lot of them have enough brown in them so that I don't know, I feel like it kind of falls into neutralish territory. Lorac has a great formula. Like I was mentioning, I love very blendy formulas. Lorac, the mattes can be kind of powdery, but they blend really, really well. Powdery formulas don't bother me as long as they blend. This palette from them has been around for a really long time. I'm really hoping that this palette is still available. But if you are looking for a palette that's good for like wedding makeup, ooh, this is great. And again, even if you're gonna stick with mattes, because you've got a nice cream over here, and then kind of a mauve-y shade, and then a more brown shade. And then of course something deep to really deepen it up if you need to. Just those would create a beautiful look. But these particular shimmers from Lorac, lately they've been going in a different direction, including some more kind of shimmery particles in their shimmers. This is their original shimmer formula, where it's just more creamy without any sparkles. So there's a beautiful pink. That was the shade Unbelievable. I'm gonna do one more. This is the shade Unreal. I really like the way they lay on the lid. Just absolutely beautiful. Oh, I love that shade. This has been a favorite for me for a really long time. I love this one. Let's do another palette from Lorac. This is one of their newer palettes. This is the Noir palette. Just wait till you look at this. Look at it. Oh my word. Just look at that top row of mattes. perfect. But then of course you've got all these beautiful sparkly topper shades to go on, and whatever combination of mattes that you've put on your lid. Oh, they're beautiful. These are not just like creamy metallics, these do have a bit more sparkle in them. And if you like these kind of sparkly shimmers to create kind of that wet look on your lid, the Noir has so many of them. And obviously you can make it more deep if you want, or keep it very light and bright. Like this is just kind of perfect. I love it. Okay, just one more, and this palette really deserves to be in this video. So this is from Beauty Bay, and this is their neutral palette. Check this out. Oh, every time I look at it, I'm just like, oh yes. So obviously it has some beautiful mattes and shimmers in here. And while the shimmers are very pretty, there's a different variety of, like there's a squishy shadow here, there's more sparkly shades, and they have like some classic metallic shades. The reason why I think this palette is so lovely is because of the tones of the mattes. Look at that top row, and then we have two more here and one there. Look at those, at how great and neutral they are. Actual neutral shadows can be really, really hard to find. And I think the Beauty Bay matte formula is actually really luxurious. Like I've heard people talk about how good the Beauty Bay shadows are. And I was really, really happy when they released a neutral palette, because again, most of the palettes that they had released were all very colorful. And while very pretty, I just knew I wouldn't reach for them. This I actually think about reaching for. And the mattes, oh, they're so soft and creamy. And the great thing about this brand is it's very affordable. It's just like buying a Colourpop palette or something, but I do think the matte formula from Beauty Bay is better. Whereas the Super Shock formula from Colourpop is better than their squishy formula, even though I like this squishy. This color story speaks to you. I don't think you'll be disappointed. I think it's a really, really nice palette. So there you have my 10 most favorite basic eyeshadow palettes in my collection. If you have any very basic recommendations for me, please leave them down in the comments. I do have a few on my list. I have a feeling that when I finally do purchase them, everyone will be like, that is the most boring thing I've ever seen. But they're the ones that I actually wear. They're the ones that I enjoy. I am on the hunt for the best formulas. I really, really enjoy talking about them with you guys. So thank you guys so much for watching through this video, and I will see you again very soon in the next one. Bye!